The morning after the night before, I could not. I've actually already made my video, my 33-minute rant today, but I had to speak to somebody else to see if they are as mad as I am after that Coventry debacle last night. Somehow Tottenham found a way to win, and that is a positive, but somehow I'm left without many other positives at all. So I had to get on the line with Jorri. Jorri, how are you feeling? How are you, first of all, but also how are you feeling the morning after the night before?
I'm feeling okay considering, but I'm not feeling great about Tottenham, that's for sure. But otherwise, thank you, Barnaby. I'm okay. I'm maybe less impacted kind of emotionally than many fans, maybe yourself, because I've kind of seen the writing on the wall for quite a bit. Even though I was shocked yesterday, I was really shocked. For me, that was like I told you on our WhatsApp. I think that's the worst footballing performance I've seen Tottenham since I got back into following Tottenham closely, and I don't include the games where the players are basically throwing the managers under the bus.
Mm.
The last two games or something like that. But apart from that, I think it's the worst I've seen them play.
Let's start at the beginning, Jory. How did you feel when you saw the team news? Were you surprised that he made as many as eight, or was that what you expected?
Like we talked about it in our last video, Barnaby, and I wasn't surprised because I think he makes those promises like probably in pre-season, and Hans is a guy that will honor those promises. However, I don't think it was wise of him. I don't think it was realistic. And I don't think when he makes those promises, he's serving the fan base, to be honest. Because we are all basically, there's one thing that is kind of unified is that we're ready to sacrifice quite a bit in the league to get some kind of cup over the line, and it seems like Ants once again is setting up with throwing a caution to the wind in that regard. So yeah.
He seems to contradict himself, doesn't he, Jory? Because I mentioned it in my video earlier. It's like he came out in the press quite hard this week, obviously talking about kind of doubling down on his talk that the reason he said he always wins in his second season is because that's what he's always done. And
Hmm.
coming out and saying he's aware of how important silverware is to this fan base, but then
Hmm.
almost making a rod for his own back by making those eight changes. Um,
Absolutely.
I,
And for the fan base as well. I mean, he puts a lot. I mean, we have enough ridicule as it is. He doesn't need to add these kind of sound bites to it. So
Yeah, but wouldn't it? But I don't. But the thing that I don't understand then is why he doesn't see, or doesn't seem to be able to see at the moment, that the rhythm is not there amongst his chosen first team in the Premier League. So give them
mm.
another game together to try and get that rhythm going, to try and, maybe get an early goal, put a few past the team, and then you can make the changes after that. Why do you think he was willing to take that risk, or is it just too hard to even work out?
I mean, yeah, it's a good question. I think this is also Levy influence. I mean, I've seen kind of more, like Mourinho and Conte both did similar things, not maybe to the same degree, but similar things, and you have to kind of go with there must be quite a bit of pressure to use this for rest of your league players. Which in a normal situation what might be fine, if we're really that kind of superior to our opponents in the cup games, then fine, but that's not the case. So and for me, once again, and like maybe in earlier seasons there was maybe more conflict around in the fan base about top four versus Carabao Cup or whatever.
Mm.
Now I think everybody just understands that we need to get that winning sensation experience into the squad so we can press
Yeah.
on from that.
to start somewhere so that the monkey is off the back,
Exactly.
so that then you
Yeah.
can get that feeling exactly. So just to double check what you're saying, you feel
Mhm.
like there is a pressure from the boardroom to say we are willing to sacrifice the Carabao Cup so that the players can be fitter for the league, so that we can chase that top four. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's wrong. It's probably more an alluded to pressure, I would say, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's almost like
I think so
especially
too. I don't think
especially a
it's
difficult thing right now, though, because we haven't made a good start to the season. So it feels like I said, it feels like way safer to just go, okay, you didn't play well at the weekend. You were playing against a team who played a low block and we couldn't get through them. So let's get some rhythm in your legs and play together. But
exactly.
yeah,
That was what we talked about last time. That's what I would have done as a manager. Is like, okay, I might have made some promises to people,
to
but
Fraser
I need to
Forster.
tell them, yeah, yeah, for example, yeah. But I need to get these guys in a groove now, and this is an opportunity for them to feel what to have a chance for feeling how the game is supposed to go, against a lesser, with all due respect to Coventry, who were excellent. It
They
is a
weren't lesser
lesser
last night. They're
competition.
supposedly lesser.
Yeah, yeah. Well, last night they should have battered us.
Yeah, totally.
It's not even that they should have won; they should have battered
Yeah,
us.
should have been
Really,
about
So
4-0.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of refuse to think that he's that unaware or that incapable. I don't. There's some dynamic there that we're not seeing. I think that's driving it. Whether it be the board pressure, whether it be the maybe maybe it's gone way out on a limb to get these players on board. Like Bergwall, like Gray, and so on, to
Mm-hmm.
get them in the club. And maybe it's in their contracts, like you said, something like that. So then it's like that. But I refuse to think it's all 11 like that. And also, if that's the case, what's the deal with Spence? He was, for me, the man of the match, and with a Kulu a close second.
Mm.
Um, and he doesn't, like, he's behind three goalkeepers in the picking order. And like it was so it's like he reluctantly played him, in my view, and the same with the substitution, which some people are praising him. That was kind of a fluke. Timo, I completely agree with you, by the way, Barnaby. I don't think you're insane. I think Timo faked that
Yeah, I
injury,
do.
to be honest,
Yeah.
because it was such a shit show. And he was just completely losing his nerve. You could see it on his face. He was
I
like,
feel I
I
feel
want to
sorry
get
for
out
that
of
boy.
here.
I actually feel
Yeah,
sorry
yeah.
for that boy, and we're not helping him. He's clearly completely shot to pieces confidence wise, and
Absolutely.
you know, I've rarely I'm reticent to go in like this, but I've rarely seen a professional player look so shot confidence wise, where the ball's just bouncing off his shins. He doesn't want to get
Mhm.
in positions. He doesn't want to drive at men, and so why is
And
he
just his
starting that
face,
game? Ange must know that.
yeah, and also just his facial expression is like, I don't know what's going on. Get me out of here. It was
Yeah.
like a scared kid. But I think this is my thing now, Barnaby. Is like, I've been answering throughout all my criticism, and the thing is, I think we've recruited a quite good squad. We have a
Mm,
good base. We
mm,
definitely need much higher quality in the last third, for
yeah.
sure. We need a top striker, for sure. Solanke might come through still. I think Solanke as well looks shell-shocked and
Well, we're not
looks
making
like
him any
uh,
chances, so
no,
he's
he's not getting
panicking.
service, but he also looks like the pressure of it is definitely something that is affecting him.
A friend, sorry to
Um,
interrupt, Joey, but a friend of mine, good friend of mine, Martin, texted me last night. It's like it's reminding me of Roberto Soldado, and it's like it's not about Soldado himself, but it's about all of those strikers that we bought in since probably Berbatov, Keane, Defoe.
mhm.
Basically, whenever Kane was around, all of them that we brought in as like a second choice to Kane or just before Kane with Soldado, they never dealt with the pressure, and I think it's too early to say that
Yeah,
um
yeah, for
about
sure.
Dominic Solanke, but but he needs to get a goal soon because that pressure
for
keeps
sure.
rising.
Yeah, and exactly, I was gonna say that because the pressure is not gonna get less from here on, you know. So, like for me, it's like okay, if Ans is doing good recruitment, and I think so, you know, for me, the mystery is how come we see Archie Gray really stand out? And then he comes to the club and he doesn't look like he knows the fundamentals of what he needs to be doing in the game. The same goes for like Timo Werner. Like for me, I thought he was a good value buy. He's definitely been awful lately. But I know that Timo Werner is a better player than this. He's always going to be a fluky guy in front of goal. We know that.
Mm.
But as just a wide winger, he's a much better player than he showed yesterday for
But
sure.
not against teams who've got, you know, both their fullback and their wide player doubling up on him. He's never gonna beat a man like that. So he should be brought off the bench when teams are coming at us. When we're winning and teams are
Well,
coming at us. That's all he should be
yeah,
on
but
for.
yeah, and that's the other thing. We have Johnson and see, look at Johnson's goal. That was a transition goal. It was basically a counter attack, you know.
Mm.
And yes, sure, with the high press, and that's maybe the idea. But that's not what we're playing. What we're playing is a very slow transition, which means that the handball defense is in place, you know, like a wall, and they don't step out of it. And to be what I thought I saw a little bit in the Newcastle game, and maybe also a little bit in the Leicester game.
Mm.
And funny enough, I didn't see it that much in the Everton game where we won and looked pretty good. But what I see is kind of this vertical, really great vertical fluidity. I saw glimpses of that, and that was what gave me hope, you know. But for that to be able to happen, you need to have the defense tracking back. It needs to be not settled to be able to
Yeah.
do that movement. And we're transitioning so slow that every time we down in the last third, they're set in and there's no movement from them. So
Yeah.
it is this horseshoe again and again.
Just because you
Yeah.
mentioned Archie Gray, I feel a bit sorry for him yesterday because I agree with what you said. He didn't
Mhm.
seem to quite get the fundamentals of that inverted fullback role. I mean,
Well,
it's the first time he started in it, so maybe
of
that's fair
course.
enough. But I would have started him in central midfield instead of Bentancur, and I would have played Spence on the right, and then I probably would have brought Ben Davis in on the left, and then found someone else to play centre half. But he just
Mhm.
didn't. I don't know. I just feel sorry for basically Archie Gray having to make your first start in a position where you're not
Mhm.
naturally comfortable. And that's why I
Mhm.
think he was very timid. I'm sure you saw in my other video. I just felt he
Yeah,
was very
I
timid on the
think
ball.
yeah, I think he was uncomfortable in the role that he had, and maybe also had struggled to understand it in terms of position, where and when and what, you know. The opposite of that was just Jet Spence, who got played badly out of position, really, and rose to the occasion and took it by the scruff, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, we've heard about Jet's kind of attitude problems or whatever. But you know, maybe that's just a little bit of ego and adds that players need, you know, to kind of be there. The same like Kulusevski, you know, I had the good fortune of doing a commercial with Kulusevski a couple of years ago in Torino when he was playing for Juventus. And I famously did Zlatan the day before
Oh,
in Milan, and you know, the guy that I mean, I didn't get it to know him as such, but still, you know, the guy that I met was kind of he had like, he was on it. He had a little bit of an edge to it. He was really, really courteous and so on, but he was really driven, you know. He
yeah.
was, and we were doing a commercial, you know, but he wanted to nail it, you know, and so and that's what you always see. Even when Kulu has been struggling, you always see that fire in him, you know.
Degi's had a
And
really good turnaround, hasn't he? And I think now it is now like
absolutely.
we need to play him in that we need to get him on the ball as much as we can because he's one of the few players in our squad at the moment who is confident on the ball. But somebody who I think is kind of the opposite at the moment, I don't know if you agree, but Pape Matar this season he is
That's the
regressing,
other
isn't it?
thing. Yeah, but exactly. We can go through the list, you know. Sa is a much, much better player than we're seeing now, like by a lot, you know. And the same with I think the dynamic with Basuma, it has to do with Ants also. I think even though Basuma is being very childish and immature and stuff with stuff that he's been doing, there's still something in the footballing sense that's gone off, you know. And like I said, I called into We Are Tottenham TV after the game yesterday, and I said, listen, we have a player that's been the highest outperforming XG outperforming player in Europe for many seasons in a row, and you're taking him out of his zone where he scores from and putting him as almost as a utility, as a somebody that should be providing service
You're talking
to
about
somebody
Sonny, right?
else.
Talking about Sonny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sonny. Yeah, it's insane for me, you know. And if the system is not capable of adapting to keeping strengths like these still alive, then I'm sorry, the system is not going to work, you know. And that for me, like I would love to see. I would really love to get the time to see what Ans is trying to do to click, and because then I'll know if I'm right or wrong about my suspicion that it won't, even when it's clicking, it's not going to be viable for the Premier League. But I haven't decided on that. But we're far from clicking. We're regressing by a lot now. And to be honest, I think also senior players are kind of yeah, they're kind of
Starting to doubt it.
tuning out. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's coming back to Ange's stubbornness again, isn't it then? So an inability or refusal, sorry, to change things up to get the players in the positions that they need to be in. And then also just the mad kind of stubbornness about team selection sometimes as well. Brentford, obviously very difficult game at the weekend as well. I watched the first 15-20 minutes of their game at Man City at the weekend, and they were all over Man City at the Etihad Stadium. They could have been 3 or 4-0 up. And if that happens at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at the weekend, as in if they play like that, then they probably will score 2 or 3 goals. And that could become a very ugly atmosphere.
I have a very hard time seeing us winning that game, you know, to be honest, because Brentford is exactly, and Thomas Frank is exactly the manager that will spend all week going over our weaknesses, and that's all that we're going to be getting from them next weekend, you know. So, and
Do you think if Ange had a bad run and got sacked, Frank would be on the list?
yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, I think so. I rate him definitely, but like for me, it's kind of pointless. I'm still not. I still don't want to see ants. Like for me, I want to see. Like I said, my ideal version would be that it started clicking pretty quickly,
Yeah.
and then I can judge if that system is viable or not. But now we're going the other direction. But Frank is a pretty, like I feel like Frank is really the one of the best mid-table, lower table managers you can get. I think once you get up to the higher end of the league, it's a different game. You know, he is all about utilizing weaknesses, set pieces. You know, this very kind of Scandinavian way of approaching. You know, being disciplined, being solid, being tight, and then just hitting on counter and doing set pieces and stuff like that. And once again, I want to say, like, that kind of football can turn into a little bit of an art, a beautiful art to watch. And the last part of Conte's first season, we saw that for me. But in general, overall, it will get a pretty boring. I agree with that in that sense. But also for me, Barnaby, possession football tiki-taka football to the extreme is some of the most boring stuff I see. I mean, when City are not like really, hitting on all cylinders, I find City games boring to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, because it's
But
passing for passing's sake a lot of the
yeah,
time, isn't
it's
it?
just beep 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 beep, and then they score. But of course, when they're playing it at their best, it's definitely art when you see it. Then but I think we're not even, we're in the worst kind of tiki-taka moment right now.
Yeah.
So
I really fear the thing that I fear just listening to you actually and thinking about it is I fear that Ange's style of football, as much as I love it, and I love the fact that he is so single-minded about being progressive and forward-thinking, I'm not
mhm,
sure if it can handle a squad with a lack of confidence, because then
mhm.
they're not delivering it at the tempo that it needs to be delivered at, and therefore, like you said earlier in the episode, it's easy for the opposition to get men behind the ball, and then you are just going sideways across the pitch every
Yeah,
time because there's nowhere to go.
absolutely. And I think also, I'm kind of where I think it's one of those that this kind of tactic, this kind of system is gonna catch the lower league clubs out. Like that. It really can blow a league away if once it's not once you're not dealing with the most
Yeah,
adaptive,
like
clever
a Scottish or
managers in the
Japanese
world.
league, for instance.
Yeah, and the Scottish League as well. I suspect that Ans has convinced himself that this system is bulletproof, and so he hasn't really he's been resting on those laurels a little bit, I think, because I thought I was seeing the beginning of tweaking, but that definitely regressed yesterday. And also, Barnaby, my biggest worry now, which is kind of where I could go, I think he needs to go, is because I'm convinced we have the good foundation for a future project. And if this keeps going like this, it will damage our squad. It will damage our players. And and we've seen it so many times in Tottenham. We
Yeah,
don't get them back. They go somewhere else. Lo Celso with a brace
I know.
yesterday.
I know.
Like you couldn't make this stuff up, mate.
Uh, you couldn't. Just
Yeah.
before we go, I just want to mention, just because we haven't mentioned him at all, the one player in
Mm,
the first half, particularly, who I thought he is someone that I want to start getting blooded into the first team is Lucas Bergvall, because he wants to do things at tempo. He's
mm.
clearly still raw and he's going to make the odd mistake, but he wants to do things one and two touch at tempo. And
Yeah.
I think blooding him in games where he's being blooded at the same time as seven other people who haven't played is wrong.
Mm,
And I think give him a start in the Premier League.
mm.
And I don't know. Odebear obviously is
No,
now going to be
I
injured
think
for a bit. Is there a chance for him to get a chance to get on the pitch?
definitely. And to be honest, I've thought about this. For me, one thing I would love to see, and feel free to steal my idea here, but I would put Udoki out wide as the winger,
Hmm.
Sonny in his regular zone, and then try with Kulu as the false nine/9 at some point if we're resting Solanke or whatever, we want to change it up, and then have Bergwall as the second eight
Hmm.
with
Yeah.
Madison.
Yeah.
That Because I know that Bergwall and Kulusevski, apart from knowing each other from the international squad in Sweden and stuff like that, they will create a very strong link-up connection, and that's also something we don't have any partners at this moment that are that link-up,
Yeah.
which we had so many years the best link-up in football, in my opinion, with Kane and Son.
Yeah.
That's also something that needs to be created, and that's one thing. But at least let Udoki not invert, let him go to the byline, and let Sonny take the inversion instead, into his zone. Then I think we should get more joy out of Sonny, and soon as Sonny is on it, then we're talking about a completely different returns in games, So
Completely agree.
yeah.
Brilliant. Jorri, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Guys, let us know in the comments box below what you think. Do you agree with Jorri and me, or are we completely mental and just going wrongly apoplectic after what was in the end, we have to say, a victory, but it somehow felt like the biggest defeat I've seen in a long time. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Sorry, go on, Jorri. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, to be honest, also because people kind of credit Dan's a little bit with the substitution. For me, like the Kulusevski was a incidental thing, and I felt at that yesterday it was simply the players doing. They just went out and took responsibility and got it over the line. I actually think that was very. We were playing not particularly ants like there at that moment. And what got us the joy was the quick transitions, which
Yeah. And that's actually a bit that's a bit fearful to think about, because that means that they're, and I did tweet about it during the game, I was like, are they not playing for this guy anymore? And actually in the end, the worry is if they scored 2 goals because they stopped playing in the way they've been told to play, then they will speak in the changing room and say, are we, are we sure? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, good point, Jorri. Guys, let us know what you thought about that in the comments. And as ever, thank you so much. Please do give this a like and press subscribe and become a member if you're not already. Only £1 a month. All the details for how to in the description box below. And let's hope we can do better against Brentford. We need those 3 points badly. Have a good rest of your evening. Cheers.